optimizing the whole must be one of the peak simple but not easy concepts out there. And getting to that point, of course, takes not just weeks or months of effort, but can take years of continuous refinement and improvement and figuring things out. And if you watch the rest of this video series, I'm sure there's a lot of good ideas that will help you on the path of optimizing the whole. But what is it about? Why does it matter to optimize the whole? Well, it's because ultimately we're not just here for an individual feature success, an individual product success, an individual team success. We're here to enable the entire business to improve and succeed and do better over time. Which means it doesn't matter how amazing that one thing is, it's either debilitating or not working in tandem with the rest of the organization. And that's a tricky conversation to have. Because if you just figure out the best way of doing this one thing, which I'm sure you would be very proud of and very happy of, and I've seen and done this myself many times, and then you realize, yes, that is fantastic and great, but actually, when put in the context of all the moving parts around it, it's actually causing disharmony. It's actually making noise and waves that is not helping other things around it. And of course, you now have a choice. Do you change everything else to work with this one part? Or do you sub-optimize that one part to work with the rest of the whole? And that's where the simple, not easy comes in. Because sometimes the right answer is in fact to change everything else around it. Because that is how you get better results over time. That's probably going to be a lot of work. Sometimes it is taking that beautiful, amazing thing that you just figured out how to engineer and create, and throwing it in the bin, and making something less good. And there's no two ways around it. That sucks. Not a good feeling, right? To go with a less good solution. But that's where you need to be able to zoom out. And ideally, you've set up ways to visualize that and track that with data measures. So that when you do go with that solution that is less good, you can see the positive impact it's having on the whole. And at least you can take that as comfort. That does help with the sting sometimes of throwing away a beautiful solution. And then it's on to the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And before you know it, probably everyone in the business has had one of those "this is better than what we had" ideas, but actually it's not better within the whole. And that can be tricky. Now, to optimize the whole, the first part of that is being able to see it. If you cannot see it, you don't know where the problems are, and then you can't fix it. And even if you try to fix something, you wouldn't know what the impacts were on the whole. And that's a tricky thing. So first step first is enable transparency, enable visualization, get baseline measures in place. And now you can see the big picture better, you can get better data, and when you are making changes, you can see the impact it's having on the overall system. Now, what's important to notice as well is sometimes, especially in systems that involve humans, which is essentially any business and organization in the world, until AI takes us over entirely. I'm sure one day will come, hail Skynet. But until that point, any change you make in a system will have a lagging effect in terms of you might see a dip first until the people around it adapt and integrate it into their new way of working or different way of working. And then you might see an improvement. So just because you see a dip day one or even week one or month one doesn't mean it was actually a bad choice. Sometimes we have to stay the course and see how does the rest of the system now respond to the changes we've made. And again, coming back to that, it's a simple concept. Make the overall better, not just the individual parts, but it's very much not easy to do. So make it transparent, get baseline measures, have very clear experiments. We are tweaking this variable, expecting to see this behavior, and make them as safe to fail as you can. At what point do you pull the plug and go, we've given this enough time, it is not responding the way we were hoping or expecting, or maybe the response is not good enough to justify the additional cost. So we're going to cut this here and try a different experiment. And that is very tricky and takes a lot of time, a lot of experience, a lot of patience, and most of all, a lot of discipline and rigor. You need to be very scientific about it. You need to be very purposeful about it, but it is definitely worth doing. Imagine a dish. I like food, so we're going to go with a food metaphor. And it's a beautiful dish, everything looks nice, but it happens to be that whoever cooked it, well, they just love how they make mustard. And the mustard on there is fantastic, it's great, it's the most powerful and amazing mustard you've ever seen. The problem is when you mix it in with everything else, you can't taste anything else. The whole dish just tastes like mustard. Of mustard, that's a great thing. If you wanted a nice balanced dish that delivered maximum value as a whole, you've got a problem on your hands. You might need to dial some of these things back to get a more valuable, more pleasant solution than you would have if you just went with one thing that was too strong in connection with everything else. And that's optimizing the whole. It is optimizing the system, and it's delivering more value over time and having a more successful and, dare I say, a more agile business than you had before.